Things started out beautifully, but and it's done a lot for women's voices being heard. I think we can all agree with that, correct? However, the Me Too movement has also made it, has glorified victimhood and has made it almost like instant celebrity if you're a victim now. And you might say like, wait a minute, calm down here, what's going on? Why am I going here? What gives me that right to go there? And I'm gonna tell you why. You know, I had every right to be a victim. I was a victim of sex trafficking for over 10 years, and it did not serve me to stay there. And someone very powerful actually just went into the media, Tony Robbins, and he addressed this issue, was trying to bring light to it. And he said, hey guys, you know, I was at both seminars. He said, it's not serving us to stay in the state of victimhood. Let's get past this, let's empower these women again. And the Me Too movement crucified him. And I just want to bring awareness to that because I think we need to look at this in a different light. So how many of you know what sex trafficking is tonight? Everyone, okay, that's a really good. And how many of you, knowing what sex trafficking is, knowing how it's destroying the lives of our young women in our society, have done every single thing in your power to really abolish this and to end it for good? Yeah, and I'm not saying this to shame you. I'm saying this to say that I want you to know you're not alone. I've been there too. For I was plagued by fear for over 10 years. I stayed enslaved to my traffickers. And I couldn't get out. And I want to tell you about a story that happened in Las Vegas. Who here has been to Las Vegas? So I was trafficked for over 10 years all across the United States, including Hawaii, by several traffickers, but primarily in Las Vegas. So I was sitting in a club in Las Vegas, Nevada, strip club that is, about 3 a.m. I was sitting across the couch from a colleague of mine, a stripper friend of mine. She was actually from Newport Beach, ironically enough. And have you ever had one of those life-defining moments, life-altering moments, where the room stops, right? Everything stops. You can remember everything you were wearing, the sounds, the smells. So Gnarls Barkley, do you guys remember that song, Crazy? Remember? That was playing. I smelled cigarettes, obviously it's 3:30 in Vegas. There was cotton candy. This club brought in cotton candy. I thought that was strange, but I remember the smells, and I had $300 in my Louis pouch. But I needed $3,000 before I could go home. And I was just recovering from my last meeting. I had experienced a concussion. I had strangulation marks around my neck, bruises that were badly covered with makeup, but I was still at work. And I knew I couldn't go home because if I went home, I was gonna get beaten. I couldn't endure another one. And this young woman, my colleague, looked over at me, and for years I'd worked with her in the clubs. She did not believe my pat answers that the strip club, or that my traffickers had told me to tell. And she just looked at me and asked me five words. She just said, "Don't you want to be happy?" And in that moment, I still get emotional. Everything stopped, and I didn't know what happiness was. I was a product of the system. I was shuffled in and out of homes and experienced abuse and trauma at an age that no child should have to go through. In my life, I had been owned. I was a product for most of my adult life. I didn't know what happiness is, but I sure as hell wanted to find out. And so I call this next part, that night in the strip club, we devised a plan to fake my own death. And I call this part of my story the way I took back my power with the 4 T's. I escaped my traffickers. I moved to an island in Thailand where I studied Tantra for a year and healed. And shortly thereafter, I met a man by the name of Tony Robbins. I don't know if you guys know who he is. I'll tell you more about that later. But after I left Thailand, I ended up just 4 years ago, I was living in a garage in Newport Beach, California. And I know you're saying, well, that's not too terrible, it's Newport Beach, but I was still living in a garage and I had a 3-month-old son. And I remember thinking like, this cannot be the life that I'm gonna give my son. I do not want him to have the life that I had. And so something within me said, no, enough. And I enrolled myself in a community college. And I decided, hey, I'll try this. I can maybe live off student loans and all that fun stuff that we've all done. I don't know if you've done that before. And I walked into a public speaking class, and we had to do a persuasive speech. And so immediately I was drawn to sex trafficking, but I didn't understand why. And as I'm doing the research on sex trafficking in Orange County, in LA, I was doing the research, and the more and more I researched, I realized that I was researching those women, but those women were me. And so I came out into this class with about 50 of my peers, and my professor who'd been teaching for 55 years, she said, "Where did you learn to speak like that? And you will definitely be my first student to make it to TED." And so in that moment, how many of you guys have had this time in your life where you have felt so hopeless, where you felt like you couldn't go on, where the thought of sometimes even living was so painful, but the thought of death seemed less painful? I was in one of those moments. I have experienced multiple head trauma and concussions to the point the doctors told me if I had another one, I could die from 10 years of being trafficked. And I was in a summer math course and with learning disabilities, with a baby, and I just felt like giving up on life. And I was scrolling through social media, through Instagram, and I saw a post from Tony Robbins, and it spoke to me, and I commented on the post along with like 3,000 other people. But he inboxed me the next morning and he said, "Listen, I honor you, and I want to help you. I want to help you help more women, but first I want to help you." So he flew me to his workshop, November 27th, Palm Beach. I met him, and meeting him in person is amazing. I walked on fire, and something within me happened in that moment. I knew that it was my destiny to be more, do more, serve more, give more than I'd ever done in my life, and I had to help those women out there that were still enslaved. And so I came home. I turned my small campus club into a nonprofit called Beyond Freedom. And I said, you know what? I'm going to be a voice for those women that have none. But the hardest part was actually not the abuse that I received, not the fact that I was branded, that I had another man's name tattooed on my body multiple times by force, not that I was raped, not that all the trauma I experienced, that was nothing. What was really the hardest part was integration back into society. There's no manual that shows you how to go from product to person. You can't sign up for this course. And so you might be saying, "Oh, that's a great story, Janelle, cool, but I wasn't a product of the system, and my kids go to private school, and we're middle, upper class America. What's this have to do with me?" Well, I want to tell you, who in here is a business owner or works for yourself or has your own business? Or understands principles of business, right? Okay. This is a $150 billion global industry and growing. This is supply and demand, simple, basic principles. California is the second largest human trafficking state in the US, and OC and LA are in the top 3 most trafficked areas in California. So this problem is affecting you. And put on your business thinking caps just for a moment with me. What happens when you have a business, you have a demand for something? You're going to get the best product to meet your customers' needs, right? So this is where it affects you. How many of you guys have daughters, or have grandchildren, or have some young women in your life that you care about? Well, they're looking at our young daughters as products. So where do you get the best products? It's not even from the projects or from the foster systems anymore. It's from the best homes. So they're going to middle America, upper class America, to buy to get your daughters to sell them for sex. That should disturb you. And I'm going to go a little bit deeper here because I have a few more minutes, and I want to talk to you about what has caused this to be a $150 billion global industry. We've got to look at the root problem here. The root problem is, how are we dealing with our sexuality today? How are we viewing it? I'm sorry, we can turn on any movie, any television show, we can turn on YouTube, any social media, magazine, radio, you name it, and sex is being oversold. And you say, "Oh yeah, that's just how it is. We sell sex." We do. But it shouldn't bother you that grown men are paying for underage girls to have sex with them. And it's against their will. This is not prostitution. This is a whole nother level. We're talking about minors here. And you might say, well, that's if we have to go back to looking at the root problem, which is how we view our sexuality. We are now swiping left and saying fuckable, swiping right, or is not fuckable, and right saying fuckable. That's what we're doing to our sexuality now. We've encouraged a generation of Snapchat to take pictures of your genitals and then disappears in 30 seconds. What is that doing? That's putting shame into our minds, into our subconscious. We're looking at sexuality in a repressed way. And don't get me started on the churches and religion and what's that's done to our sexuality. Whatever we resist or whatever we shame is going to come to the light more. And that's why we have a $150 billion global industry that's targeting your children, your daughters, into the sex trade. And you might say, well, this is offensive to me. Well, you know what's offensive to me? That 5 years ago, you could have flown to Vegas and purchased me. Or we could go 5 miles up the road in any direction and go into a hotel room and there's a young girl that's being bought and sold for sex. And nobody's caring right now. And so I know I kind of came at you hard, but I'm not here to make you like me. I'm here to get you to feel what I'm feeling and to understand that this problem is affecting you. And so I've given you kind of a lot to digest, and I want to leave you with a little bit of solutions, because Beyond Freedom Nonprofit is solution-based nonprofit. So we are doing something really unique. We're taking music, we're taking a holistic approach to survivor integration. So we're bringing them back into the community, and we're doing that by using music therapy, dance movement therapy. We partners with healers all over the world that are helping bring these young women back into the globe, back into our community rather. So I'm going to leave you with 3 things, action steps that you can do right now. We'll get back to the music. I appreciate you lending your ear to me and to the mission that we have tonight. So the first thing you can do is super simple, super old school. You can give. I take everything from cash, credit card, PayPal, Venmo, you name it. It's easy. And the thing that you can feel good about in giving your money is that it's not some fluffy nonprofit with a plethora of board members standing up here. God knows what's happening to the money. No, I can tell you exactly what we're doing with the money. Tony Robbins has partnered with us, and we send 5 survivors to every single workshop that he hosts all year long. And you might say, oh, that's great. Look at what it did for me. I forgot to mention, I booked that TED Talk. In fact, I booked 3. My first one is January 2020 in Scottsdale, Arizona. Thank you. I hope to see you there. I suffered multiple head trauma concussions to where I developed a learning disability. It's extremely challenging for me to write and read, but I didn't let that stop me. I wrote a book in a day. I spoke the damn book, and now it's being edited, and it's being it'll be published in 90 days, and I'm in the process of writing 3 more. So I don't let anything stop me. So just think of what the work has done for me, and now we're providing that to other survivors. So the first thing you can do is give. The second thing you can do is give and receive. It's kind of cool to get something when you give some money. So we have a live auction. We partnered with No Risk Charity auction items. We have things by LeBron James. We have all LA memorabilia, sports memorabilia, I can say that word, superhero things. So please go back there and bid. The proceeds go directly to Beyond Freedom. Take something nice home. You maybe would buy it anyway. So it's a really great option. And the third thing you can do is you can partner with us, man. I can't do this alone. 5 years ago, I was being bought and sold, and now I'm standing in a room full of people in LA that care. And so I need your help. Have me come to your church, to your group, to whatever, to your company. And let's do this together. Let's end this now, but it takes a community, and I need your help. So if you're interested, put your name on the mail, or come speak to me directly. And I want to leave you with these, closing words that if I moved you or touched your heart a little bit tonight, then I failed, and I wasted your time and my time both. And time is precious, something we can't get back. I should know I lost 10 years of my life. So I'm not here to move you. I'm here to inspire you to massive fucking action, because that is the only thing that's we've got to be as smart as the traffickers. We've got to be smarter. And so these closing words, I'll say, the only way that the evil of sex trafficking will prevail in LA is if good, decent human beings that are all here tonight know what's happening, and now you know because I told you, and do absolutely nothing. Let's not be that. Remember, you are the solution to ending sex trafficking. Be the solution. Thank you.